Well, hey, it's great to be with you today. It's a fun thing. I hope we're going to have some fun today. Um, as I said yesterday, some of you know me a little bit, and some of you know me less. My name's Andy Taylor. Actually, my name is Andrew Murray Stewart Taylor. And from those names, you'll realise where I was born, probably. Well, George will anyway. Andrew Murray Stewart. Yeah. So I was born in Edinburgh. And so I don't want to tell you everything I told you before, but just to say that I was a pastor in Ealing for 34 years, and I've been retired a couple of years. I know I don't look old enough, but there you go. Between myself and my father, we did 70 years in ministry, so that's not bad, is it? Because I'm a pastor's kid. So I live in Crewe and I'm married to Susan. We don't have any family because we were married later in life. Today we're going to talk about leading and calling, and some of what you did yesterday will overlap into today, but I'm going to come with from a general perspective. Yesterday was about a New Springs perspective, and so a lot of stuff may overlap, but hopefully we'll be in agreement. That would be a good thing, wouldn't it? So leadership in the morning, we're going to talk general leadership in the morning, and we're going to talk about calling in the afternoon, God's call on our lives. And I'm hoping that I'm going to help you a little bit by some of the things that we hand out to discover, if you haven't already, and I'm sure some of you might have done this stuff before, but if you haven't already, to just give you an idea of where your giftings might be. And it's just an indicator. And hopefully some of what you discover is confirmation of what you already know your giftings are. Sometimes it's helpful to do these things just to give yourself actually that is me. So I'm going to try and help you to discover I'm going to give you a simple one to do to start with in here, and then I'm going to give you a little bit more of a longer one, a little bit more in depth that you can take home. And you might be able to use it should you ever talk to any of the leadership here, you might use it as a basis, say, look, this is what came out through my answering these questions. And it might be a discussion point for you when you come to talk about maybe what God's called you for the next level or the next season of your life. Now, I was very encouraged yesterday because I'm very low tech. And I was very encouraged to know that your pastors here are very low tech as well, even Nate, you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you loads of notes, but most of them are bullet points, so you'll have to write a lot of the stuff in yourself as we talk and as we discuss. So you can write stuff in for yourself on the notes because they are bullet points. But I'll give you plenty of time, and if you've got any questions or can you say that again, I'm happy to do that for you. I'm gladly do that. I'm going to give you some scenarios to look into and think about and get your head round, and you know what, a leader has to deal with some of these issues. I've got lots, but we'll just see how time goes because there's other things that I want to get in, but it just helps to break the day up a little bit and just get our thinking caps on a little bit. Some scenarios, any questions you might have, you don't have to put your hand up, just speak out if you've got any questions at all. Happy for you to do that. We may, if we get an opportunity, we might bring Phil in to talk into the situation as well. He's only had my notes this morning, so but I'm sure he'll have no trouble to speak into what we're going to talk about today. The basis for what I want to do today is found in Psalm 78 and verse 70. It's a long chapter, but just the last three verses. Psalm 78 verse 70. If you've got a Bible you might like to turn, but you're happy just to listen to it. It says this, Psalm 78 verse 70. He chose David, or he called David, he chose David his servant and took him from the sheep pens. From tending the sheep he brought him to be the shepherd of his people Jacob, of Israel, his inheritance. And David shepherded them with integrity of heart and with skillful hands he led them. And that's what we're about today. We're typified in David a little bit, but David shepherded him, took him from what he was doing in the natural level and took him and put him in a more of a leadership spiritual position where God used what he was before to be what he was on a higher plane, a different level. He shepherded the people with integrity of heart, and with skillful hands he led them. And that's what we're about. We want to be skillful, and it's about good leadership. And whatever level of leadership God calls you to, it's about having that skillful, and another time we might talk about wisdom, but having those skillful hands to lead them. I did some of this stuff I did in my own church, and I called it the Skillful Hands training, and because it was based on this passage. I love that passage. I just think it says so much into where we might be. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me later when this afternoon we talk about the call, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the way I journeyed, the way God led me into ministry. Everybody's story is different. Everybody's journey is different. So don't think that you have to be like me. But it will give you some pointers, because what we're going to do in the morning and in the afternoon, it will give you some idea how God worked through me, and God will work through you, but in a different scenario, in a different way. But you'll get to know a little bit more about my story as we do that. So let me just a quick prayer. I know we've prayed already. Father, thank you for this opportunity to be together today, to just share together, to learn from each other, and just to have fun, and just to, Lord, more than that. It's more than about the fun and the relaxation and being together. It's about what you're doing in our lives. And we're here because we feel there's a something moving. And we pray, Lord, I pray for these great folks, Lord, that you will just speak into their lives, confirm some things will be new, but Lord, just do what you want to do and bring them into that spacious place where you want them to be. So we'll just pray that you take the simplicity of what I do today, and Lord, that my words will be clear and understandable, and Lord, will just make a difference today. So thank you, what you're doing, in Jesus' name. Amen. So what I want you to do first of all, just to get us in the sort of mode, I want you to have a think about first of all, and then have a chat with somebody next to you. I want you to think about and then talk a little bit about a leader that has influenced your life in the past. Somebody that's influenced your life that was a leader. I'm thinking about somebody that particularly was a leader, but it doesn't have to be a leader in a church. Now, there's two provisos. First of all, not Jesus, because we'll all say that, all right? And secondly, this might be a little bit more difficult for some of you, not New Springs, okay? Because I know that you've all been blessed by the ministry here, great leadership here, and it's easy. That's an easy thing. So I want you to think back a bit further than that. Might be another church, might be a parent, might be a teacher at school, might be somebody, I don't know, somewhere. Just have a think about that, and then talk to somebody next to you, or in your, I know we're odd numbers, so it's not so easy, but you know, amongst yourselves, and just have a think about it, and talk about, and just say, what was it that about them that inspired you? What was it that inspired you? Go on, have a think about that. If you want to walk around, I don't care. Just, you know, go and sit somewhere else. If you want to be on your own, just think about that.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
A group of people, I got them to not to tell me what they'd said, but to tell me what the person they were speaking to had said and who the person was. I'll not do that with you guys because I didn't tell you what I was going to do beforehand. So, and there's other things I want to do. So, but that's good. It's good to just remember and be aware of that. No, we'll find out in a little while that no leader is perfect. So, you know, every leader's got flaws. But, you know, just to remember and to verbalise it actually is sometimes a really good thing, those people that have influenced us in our lives. Right, so next what I want to do now is I want to just give you a scenario that I want you to have a think about and to chat into. So can I just take one and pass one on? Now this is just a really silly, it's a silly illustration, but it brings out some really good points in it. So I'll just wait till it gets around everybody. Just stick the spare ones out in the front there, that's fine, yeah, thank you. Okay, so here it goes. It says, imagine you've been involved in an aeroplane crash in the desert. There are 8 survivors. The only way to escape is to make a plan of escape, but who can be trusted? Only a good leader could pull you through, but who? Read the descriptions of the possible candidates, then answer the questions. Okay, so there's 6 possible people. And so just briefly, there's William Smith, who's a retired bank clerk. He's the chairman of the local horticultural society. There's Jean Simmons, well-proportioned, I don't know why that's important, but well-proportioned 40-year-old spinster who runs a large number of community activities for a charity. Strong-willed, determined, works well under pressure, but she lacks a sense of humour. Then there's Brian Williams, a young self-made executive with 2 high-power businesses that he owns and manages very successfully. He's a quick mind, exercises fair judgment, but he's not very athletic and he requires a walking aid. Guy Sanders, VC, retired Air Force, brilliant career, won a Victoria Cross for Valour, saving 3 lives of his crew members against all the odds, but he's a strong and inflexible disciplinarian who always expects. Then there's Sally Randall, a very successful married lady who has carved out a career in advertising against all the odds from her male counterparts. Responsible for 400 people, she is known for her kindness, sound judgment, tempered with a willingness not to accept fools gladly. And then there's Simon Rufflin, MP, very topical, a member of Parliament for 20 years. He's recently been appointed as a member of the Cabinet for in charge of Defence. 49, he's young to be in his position, but he's fought his way to the top, treading on his opponents. He has a reputation for getting his own way in the end. A manipulator of the first degree, Mr. Rufflin will see his way through. So the questions are these. Who would you follow? Who would you be your first choice? Who would you be who would you follow? And why? And which character would be the last person you would follow? And why? And if once some of you will consider that quicker than others, and if once you've decided that, think about in that situation. Remember, in that situation, you're in the desert, so you might think of the qualities of a perfect leader, what you would expect for somebody who's get you out of the desert. So there you go. Have a think about that. For you do it yourself, or you can do it with somebody next to you. I don't mind. That's fine. Let's have a chat about that afterwards.
Absolutely. Well, I've just written, really.
Retired
Yeah.
and gardening.
And gardening.
There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99, and I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
You need a little bit of time about your six things you'd like to see in an ideal person, or maybe you've got them in your head and we can talk about them. Dave's still writing, so I'm gonna.
No,
You're right.
go on then.
So let's see. Anybody for Williams? We're going to talk about to lead first of all. The ones that you would want to lead. Okay. So William Smith. Any William Smithers?
Yeah.
One.
2, me and Dave.
Oh, you and Dave. Two. Any?
I'm a maybe there.
Any?
He's jumped off the fence.
I'm
Okay.
stuck in the desert.
And anybody for Gene Sims? Nobody for Gene Sims. Anybody for Brian Williams? Nobody for Brian Williams. Guy Marshall. Ooh, 2 for Guy Marshall.
You got 3.
3 for. Oh, is it? Well, he's got. Yeah, he's at half. Right, who was that? Oh yes, Guy. Yeah, Guy Sanders. 2.5. And 1.5 at the top, yeah. And anybody for Sally? 2 for Sally. 3 for Sally. Oh, sorry, Ruth. Yeah, 3 for Sally. And anybody for the MP? Nobody. No.
Leave him in the desert.
Nobody. I can't believe it. No.
He's food.
Okay. And so, am I taking it that we've got 6 MPs that you definitely wouldn't follow? Have you got anybody else? Who would be the last person? Anybody else other than the MP? Are you all? He's the last person you would. Are you all in agreement on that? 6 of you. Goodness me. Okay. And so, what was it that you saw about William Smith? That those of you that went for William. What was it that you saw about?
Number one, I'm a horse culturist.
Okay,
You know, I follow somebody that has the same outlook in life as me.
okay,
Retired teacher. but,
Interesting, yeah.
So I would say that you need a fucking good sense of humour to see the positive side of passion in the desert.
right,
And I think anybody who has got a horticultural mind, you have to have you've always got to have a 3-year plan for
Okay.
your garden.
yeah,
For the rotation or rest of it, so you are used to planning. It might be with plants, but then it doesn't matter. You've got a 3-year plan. You're used to that strategic planning.
Is that how long it's going to take to go out the desert then? 3 years?
But I'm just saying that's the kind of mind he's got.
if you
Mine's just at 40, so he's already
keep going around.
He's got a strategic planning mind. That's what I'm saying. He's
Right.
got those skills that
Okay.
look ahead and strategically plan stuff like
And
that.
he's also chairman of, presumably, a voluntary organisation,
Yeah,
okay,
which is hugely difficult
it's
to manage
difficult.
Okay.
because everybody
Yeah.
wants to.
all right. And any thoughts? Why did you pick Guy Sanders?
For me, straight away, it says there he's won the Victoria Cross for saving 3 lives. So he's been in a situation where he's had to get people out of a situation. Also, been in the Air Force, he will have training on survival techniques and how to navigate without a map and stuff like that.
Okay.
Probably didn't know how to use the stars because he's in the Air Force and that. He'd have to be able to do that at night. So I would say for me that would be. You might be a bit hard and I might not like him or go home with him, but at the end of the day,
Get you out.
he's getting me out. I don't want to just ting and go, you know what I mean? So I feel that his background is more suited
And he
for.
would be able to take his emotions out.
Yes, it would just, and he would know how to organise us, and he'd
Sure.
know the things we need to take, and he'd know. I think he's just got that. He's obviously well trained because he's got a brilliant career.
Sure.
So
Sure.
he
Okay.
seems to me that.
Valid reasons. And Sally, you guys went for Sally. Why
Yeah.
why you go for Sally?
So she's a successful businesswoman, and she's managed 400 people. So I expect that she would be able to utilise everyone's different skills. She's kind, so people would like her and possibly do what she. So I would, if someone was kind to me, I'm more likely to do what they ask me to do. And she's got sound judgment. And a willingness not to accept fools, so she'd be able to get this
Put her
MP
foot
in
down when she
place,
needs to.
Okay.
knock the MP
Yeah.
on the head
Good.
and say shut up.
Or just leave him in the desert.
Just leave it behind.
Just make the wise decision. So leave
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So all genuine cases. There's cases for all of them, in fact. To be honest with you, even the MP that we'd all
Yeah.
want to leave there is some people might go for him, So that's interesting. I think we know why we probably wouldn't go for him, and to be honest, when I've done this with other folks, they all say the same thing, basically, not having him. But even the fact that he's not an MP, I mean, the fact that he is an MP does show that he has been a leader.
Yeah.
And all of them are leaders in their own right. So that's interesting. Okay, I think perhaps what you might want to do, you might want to pick a leader, but you might want to say to the leader, whoever it was, could you take such and such as an assistant? Because I think your guy, you might say to him, actually, you need an assistant who will actually, you know, you're a bit strict with what you do. You need somebody to be able to soften the blow. You make the decision, but you need somebody to, you know. So you might sort of look for an assistant. That would be the ideal thing, but they didn't give you that opportunity to do that. And what would be some of the qualities that you'd go for in that situation? You'd be looking in an ideal leader to get you out of the desert.
I think what I said about being able to separate your emotions to
Okay.
get you
Yeah, yeah.
where you need to go, because if everybody's panicking, nobody's going anywhere.
Yeah, fine, absolutely. Any other strengths you wrote down, thought of?
Is this the list of 6 that
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
about? Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Well, for me Gardner bloke, I put he was measured and calm, organised, because I said about the 3 years. I did mention the fact that he'd probably have culinary knowledge of plants, so he
Okay.
could be a feeder. Friendly and a sense of humour, knowledgeable, sense of humour.
Okay.
That's what I put.
And would that be in an ideal situation, if you could pick somebody that's not on the list, but you could pick somebody that, would they be the sort of qualities you'd look for in somebody?
I think measured and calm would be.
Measured and calm, okay, yeah.
Somebody, I mean, they're going to have different physical qualities, but so it's somebody who could look after the weak as well as the strong and assist them to safety.
Yeah. Okay. I did this with another group recently, and somebody said, well, I've got 2 words, and I said the first one is called bear and the second one is called grills. So to get you out of the desert. So okay, so I want to just, I know it's a silly illustration, but I wanted to think about what that scenario tells us about leadership. Just have a little 30-second thought about that. What we've presented amongst ourselves, it's a rhetorical question, which basically means I don't want your answer just now, but have a think in your own mind. What did that little scenario teach us about leadership in general? And then I'm going to give you some pointers that I thought of that you can write down for yourself. Okay. So I'm going to give you 4 things that I've noticed, and it might agree with what you've already written. First thing I wrote down was, everyone has a potential. I mentioned that earlier. Everyone has a potential. Well, let me just qualify that a little bit and just say, most people have the potential to be a leader. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that? Across society, the majority of people have the potential to be a leader, depending on the purpose of the group that they might be leading, depending on the characteristics of the group, the circumstances around the group, and the size of the group. It's an interesting verse in Exodus chapter 18 and verse 24. I'll just read it to you. It says this: Moses listened to his father-in-law, who was called Jethro. Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said. He chose capable men from all Israel and made them leaders of people, officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties and tens, and they served as judges for the people at all times. Now what that just reminds me is that God calls people sometimes for different sizes of group. No less leaders, no less important. All of those people were important, but some were qualified to lead thousands, but some were qualified to lead tens. No less important, just a different way of leading. Because if you know anything about leadership, you'll know that actually you can't lead thousands in the same way you lead tens. But they're all very much important. So everyone has potential to lead in some way, and certainly most people in church have a capacity to lead. Might be a small group, might only be a few people, but others have got potential for bigger groups of people. So everyone has potential, and in that little scenario we've just done, everybody has potential. Whether you pick them or not is immaterial. They all had some qualifications that could be used in leadership. The second thing I noticed was everyone has qualities, but everyone has flaws. Now that's an important thing, and that will come out again as we talk at some of the other notes. Everyone has quality. All these guys in this scenario have qualities, but every one of them have got flaws. They're not perfect, and we need to remember whether we're leaders ourselves, we will have flaws, and it's good to appreciate that you have got flaws or weaknesses or areas that you're not very good in. But you also have, everybody has got good qualities in them. God puts qualities in us that help us to be leaders. So everyone has qualities, but everyone has flaws. And it's good for us to remember that when we are followers. Because all of us are followers. We might be leaders, but we're also followers in other groups. And we need to remember that our leaders have flaws. And not to put leaders on pedestals because they fall off them. But we'll talk a bit more about that later. And then the third thing was I noticed was that we all respond to different sorts of leader. See, that's interesting. 3 groups of picked out 3 different people. Now, there's reasons why people respond to different leaders. Lots of it is to do what's inside us. And Jane, I think you said about, and Dave, you're both horticulturists. You pick somebody that's like you. You pick somebody. If you're looking for a leader, or somebody that you respond to as a leader, you look to somebody that you could connect with, or that you feel like you've got, So that's sometimes an important thing. We all respond to different leaders. And the fourth thing I noted was that leadership consensus is hard to agree on. So if it comes to picking a leader, it's hard to agree in a group who the leader should be. Now, mostly in church life, you don't get to pick. In some churches, depending on their sort of government, some churches have one person, one vote, and like in the Baptist church, you get to vote on who you want. I don't think they do that here, and they certainly don't do it in Ealing, which is my background. But if there's a picking of a leader, the consensus is very difficult to agree on because everybody picks somebody different. And it's illustrated. I follow Leicester City. I'm sorry, I do, because I grew up in Leicester, and they just recently got a new manager, and the new manager is Steve Cooper, and I follow the app where people write comments. 40% of the followers, of the supporters, said, worst decision ever, worst person they could have ever picked, terrible. Another 40% of them said, brilliant, absolutely fantastic manager, he's done really well wherever he's been, you know, fantastic. And the other 20% weren't bothered. Because consensus is really hard. And we all respond to different sorts of leaders. So they were the 4 things that I want. But I wonder, anybody got any other suggestion? What else did you learn from that scenario? Was there anything else that you learned from that scenario that you wrote down or thought about?
I wrote teams are better.
Teams are better.
But no one leader has all qualities needed, and teams are better.
Teams are better. Yeah, and that's a good thought. Yeah, good thought.
I thought we all like to lead like to be led differently.
Yeah.
So I think that's just what you said.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, similar.
And it just highlights how many different leadership styles there are.
Yeah, that's another seminar altogether. That's another
Yeah.
workshop.
I just think it depends on the scenario. I mean,
Yes.
obviously
It
in a church
does.
setting, you would
It
have wanted
does.
somebody like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in that environment, that's an environment that he was used to. So
Yeah, it absolutely
affects
does.
decisions.
It absolutely does. And in church life, you've got different sorts of groups, ages, all sorts of things. Especially in your church, you've got amazing.
Which is why you have a team of leaders.
And well, you have a team of leaders, but you have a different
Yeah.
sort of leader for each particular
Yes.
group they're leading.
I think in this as well, you wouldn't have all that information.
No, you wouldn't.
But I know it's like for the
Yeah, yeah.
hypothetical. So in that,
Yeah.
you're making decisions. A lot of your decisions are, as you said, based on your feelings, how you feel about that person. Oh, I don't like him. Oh, he reminds me of my granddad or something. I mean, I hated my granddad, or just silly things like that. Or, and I think, and that's how you end up with factions as well, and that's how you end up with division, because
Yeah.
people can't agree on who should lead. And what you're saying about teams, I do agree. But the way, that reminded me. That reminds me the military. If you're in charge of thousands, then you're a general, or then you've got a captain down below you. He's only in charge of that, whatever, a couple of battalions or whatever. Then you go down. You know what I mean? And then you're in charge of your own wee group. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it just reminds me of that, and I think it's important to have a leader, but.
Yes,
'Cause then
you
just-
do have to have a
you need-
leader.
you need
There's
to-
always you have to have a captain of a ship. If you had a ship with no captain, it'd go round and round in circles. So team leadership is good, but there has to be somebody at the helm.
There has to be somebody that ultimately makes the
Makes the
decision,
decision.
because then we could go round and round in circles,
You would.
and arguing. But I think as well, I don't know if it's a thing that's all through society or that it's society now, but people may think that their opinion's better than everybody else's, and that like.
You get that in
And
church
I
life
even
too.
get that. Yes, I get that sometimes. Like I'm quite willing to follow. See, like if you're flung into a situation, right, and it's like right, okay, and there's not a leader being angry. You know, like say one of the kind of if we were all flung into a task to build a raft, and then everybody just stands there. See, I'll stand and I'll wait to see if somebody wants to take the lead, and until they start saying things that I disagree with. But wait a minute, no, actually, what you know what I mean? Or if nobody takes the lead within a couple of seconds, I'll just go in. You know what I mean? But I like to have a wait and see, and then if somebody steps up to take that leadership role, I'm quite happy to let them go until they start. Unless I know something like, well, actually, this would be a better design than that. But then he thinks his design's better, if you know what I mean. So then.
Yeah, well, and that's it. These are the questions that come around the whole thing of leadership, and that has a bearing on it. If we're leaders, it's good to know these things. Before we go into any sort of leadership, it's not as easy as it looks.
But I think if you're a leader, you need to listen to the people that you're leading. I know, and then you've got to filter out the people who are thinking. You need to, you know what I mean, who are thinking. So it's hard.
Well, there's a couple of questions that I did have. We haven't got time to, but I'll just throw them out to you. And the question is this: can followers have a bearing on how well a leader leads? So we're all followers, but the way we relate and the way that we react to, remembering that all leaders have flaws, how we are following actually can make a leader better or not so good, because sometimes those flaws come out if they get criticism or they get stuff. So it's a good question. We always talk about he's a good leader, but we never say he's a good follower.
It goes back to what George was saying about being good listeners.
Good listeners, yeah.
You listen
sure.
to your team and take all the information, take all the good bits from them.
Yeah.
And think, well, if I go down that route, I'm gonna hit that rock. So but if I go down that route, then we'll miss it.
Yeah, but it's equally if you're a follower, and the leader makes a decision to go in a direction that you don't think as a follower you should go. It's how you as a follower react to that will.
But that can be down on the leader. If the leader just says, yeah, we'll go that way, rather than saying, okay, team, what do you think? Which one? Put it back onto the team. Take it on board, but put it back onto the team, and let them make the make the decision. And if you still feel that they're going the wrong way, just throw them a curveball and say, well, what about if we go that way? What if this happened?
But usually in any decision that you make as a leader, there's a good and a bad to it.
Yeah.
See,
There's a good side to it and a bad side to it.
I think the key to that is, right, so if we were to have a discussion here, and me as a leader and some people were disagreeing, then if I just say no, it's communicate, no, we're not going that way, we're going this way. But if I don't validate what their opinion and what they've said, and then communicate a reason why actually, but I'm going to make this choice. What you've said is a really good, is good, but I believe, you know what I mean. So I think it's how you communicate
Yes.
the decision you're making to the people without making them feel like stupid
Yes.
or whatever. You know what I mean?
It's true, but leaders still have to sometimes make really difficult decisions.
Yes.
And not all the followers
I'm never going to make everybody happy.
agree.
You just leave,
And
you just
what do you
leave,
do?
don't you?
Well, if you have the option, if you're employed though, you can't, can you?
You can get a new job.
Well, you can, I suppose that's true. Okay.
That's really what I've done in life.
Zach, do you want to say anything?
No, I think leadership qualities vary where you are, I think. You would agree, I think we've covered that as well. And also what it means to lead under people and lead people under people is a different thing in church life that isn't really secular in that sense. So for here in New Springs, we've got a very diverse leadership team because there's so many different pockets of people. In most churches, we're quite blessed actually. Most churches aren't that similar, but we've got somebody that will lead this department or that will lead this department who are on our key strategic team on the leadership team for the New Springs UK, which help us develop even more stuff locally and nationally. So working with other leaders is a massive key that sometimes leaders forget. It's good to collaborate and good to sort of work together rather than, oh well, George, you're leading this and Ruth, you're leading that. So you can't talk to each other, but just lead it and then we'll chat afterwards and see how it's going. It's like, how can we do it best to support everybody rather than just making rash decisions and stuff.
Is Phil on? Does he want to say anything?
He's not on.
He's not on.
I think
Okay.
he's just had some issues. He's just texted me saying.
Okay, all right. Okay, well let me give you another sheet. I'm not sure how we'll get through all of these notes today, but we'll see how we go. There you go, Josh. You take that and then there we go.
Do we want to take a comfort break?
Yes, about 11 o'clock if that's all right. Is that okay? I'll just start on this and then we'll continue it as we go. Okay, so what I've got here is what I've called commonly held views on leadership. And there's a lot of them are mythical. In other words, they're not actually true, but they're commonly held views, and both secular and in church life as well. So just let's start on this. So the bullet points speak for themselves. I just want to add some comments, and you might want to write your own comments. There's a lot of differences of opinion on these things. They're not hard and fast. These things are not hard and fast. But some people have them in their minds when it comes to leadership. So the first one I've written down is leaders are recognisable in a group of people. Do you think that's true or not? If you just put a random group of people in a room, would you be able to tell who the leader was or a leader?
I think it depends. Like sometimes you get some people that stick out like a sore thumb.
You get gobby ones that stick out,
I
but they're not
Who are not
the good
necessarily leaders, yes, that's true.
think the
Yeah,
leader.
the gardeners are.
Yeah. Definitely.
We rule the world.
Grow the world.
Yeah.
So if you go into a room, should you be able to spot a leader? And I suppose what would make them stand out if you did believe that? What would you be looking for if you put these sort of random people in a group? And I mean, think for instance, children in a nursery. Often you can tell the leader of the pack in a nursery. They just stand out, and don't they? Are those of you who work with kids?
Right?
Sorry?
I feel like there's a confidence. Like a lot of
Yeah.
leaders have a confidence about them that kind of stand
But
out.
some leaders are more reticent and watch, and then
Yeah.
come to but like
That's
George was
what I
saying,
think,
that's
yeah.
what you're saying, isn't it? You know?
It's a mixed bag,
So,
I think.
just,
Some
it's a
leaders
very-
wouldn't.
Children are not as subtle, that's why.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
And some kids make great leaders in their pack in the nursery,
Yeah.
but when they grow up, they're
Yeah.
rubbish. Sorry, I
They're
shouldn't
just
say
leading
that.
naughtiness normally.
But they stand out and they lead other kids into mischief. They're leader in that sense.
And I think that what I observed in the nursery, because we worked in the nursery, and was like the more intelligent kids, the kids who were a wee bit further on, were more able to guide things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not just more intelligent,
Manipulate.
more.
They used to manipulate the ones
Aye.
that weren't quite as
It was-
bright. Yeah.
and yes,
A lot.
but aye. So
But as in an ordinary classroom with kids that are a bit older, would you have said the same thing? Could you see in a classroom with kids? Could you see potential leaders or leaders of that group, or people of influence? Let's put it that way. That's at that age.
I think,
What
yeah.
age group did you teach?
I taught secondary.
Did
so,
you? Okay, well, what would you say?
I'm just reflecting.
Reflecting.
I'm reflecting. Again, I think more so, possibly, but again, I think it's always the loud ones that you are drawn to, but actually they're not necessarily
They're the
ones
leaders.
that
Yeah,
are the
absolutely.
best leaders,
Yeah, yeah. So there is some truth in it, but it's not a hard and fast rule. Okay. I'll just do another one. So the next one I've put is leaders are made by situation. You've heard the phrase, cometh the hour, cometh the man or the person, the woman. A dilemma will bring a leader to the fore. What do you think about that? Do you think is that a
some
truth?
in that, because if you don't realise your own potential, then a situation can open your eyes to the potential that you have. So there's truth in that sense, because you might not realise your own potential.
Yes.
you might not have the confidence to step in to be a leader, but if you're thrown into the situation where you have to lead,
Yes.
then in that, through your experience of that leadership can boost your confidence, and then that might help you to step in to a leadership role, being a better leader, I suppose.
I mean, but again, it's true in some circles. Now, you put a load of people in a room and actually just sit and look at each other. And a dilemma, everybody's going like, well, you do it, or you do it, I'm not doing it, you do it, you know. But there is some truth that in some circumstances, a leader will come to the fore because somebody's got to take the lead, somebody's got to do something.
Do you think that's cultural as well? In a
Possibly.
sense, maybe like in the kind of in a British kind of culture, we're like, oh, like a wee bit more.
You can
No,
find
no,
us.
yeah. Where in some
Way too
cultures it's like,
polite.
I am the leader, and everybody's kind of, there's a whole big ruckus.
And sometimes it's again, we go back to the loudest when we take over, you know. So, okay. All right, well, we're 11 o'clock, let's have 10 minutes break, is that okay? Have 10 minutes break, and we'll come back to this, see how we go.
No, we need some more.
As long as you do filter.